What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here again today for another BFR, Game 32 versus the Detroit Red Wings. It's a 7 o'clock game on December 13th, the second of a back-to-back. The Hawks lose 4-0. They finally fall back to 500, 13-13-6. Shots were 26-24 Chicago, hits were 30-15 Chicago, faceoffs 28-16 Chicago. Power plays, Chicago 0 for 5, Detroit 0 for 3. Or no, they're both 0 for 3. I'm not sure why I said that. Soderblom saves 20 out of 23. Gibson gets the shutout, 26 out of 26. Bedard was out, which we knew going in from the St. Louis game after that injury. It's Monday now, and we don't know what's going to happen. What we do know is that Brossoit and Del Mastro, as of today, were called up. So we'll see how that goes. That's not replacing Bedard. What did replace Bedard was that Lardis and Tony Nato were both called up. Bedard and Lafferty out of the lineup. Slager was sent back to the AHL. So Tony Nato makes his season debut, as well as Lardis makes his NHL debut. And I'll be honest, he was the best player on the ice. Ceremonies before the game, former players, as well as executives and singers even. Pat Foley was doing stuff. He was doing the talking for the ceremony, but to talk about the old Chicago Stadium, 100 years celebration, another one of those. Dale Talon was in attendance. He former Blackhawks player, former Blackhawks GM, and former Blackhawks broadcaster. So he got on the call for a little bit in the start of the third, did some talking as well. Wayne Messmer was there to sing the national anthem. Of course, Wayne Messmer now I have dinner with a lot because he works with the Chicago. He's the national anthem singer for the Chicago Wolves. And so he sang the national anthem for the first time in quite a while at the United Center. He used to do the national anthem at the old Chicago Stadium. So that was really cool to see. A friend of mine, I could call him a friend, I'd say, talk a lot. So it was really cool to see him do that again since I never got to see that. Other players that were in attendance, Noonan, so Brian Noonan, Gary Suter, Jeremy Roenick, Bob Murray, Chris Chelios, Grant Mulvey, Steve Smith, to name a few. So that's pretty cool to see all those former players there from mostly the 80s and 90s. A bunch of guys were there from the 70s or late 60s as well. Fortunately, that's not my area of expertise. 80s and on, mostly I'd say like the 90s and on I'm most comfortable with, late 80s, early 90s. There's some guys in there that I honestly couldn't name. If you told me they were on the Hawks team back in the early 80s, I'd said, really? First period, 1905, it's a Detroit, it's 55 seconds in. Snuck through, and it's Alex DeBrincat with his 17th of the season from Kopp and Kane to make it 1-0. I said, oh boy, here we go, right there and then. 15-25, it's a Detroit backhand goal by Patrick Kane. 6th of the season from DeBrincat to make it 2-0. So the former Hawks, Kane and DeBrincat. Kane, of course, gets cheers every time he scores, so that's fine. But it was that moment when I said Kane's going to hit 500 goals. It was that moment as my dog is sprawling out on the floor and being goofy. Nickel, what are you doing? What are you doing? Calm down. What you get when you have a puppy. 7:36, Chicago penalty to Moore for tripping, which is killed. There's a scramble that's cleared. Finney hits the post as they're looking for more. 4:30, it's a Chicago penalty to Doc for tripping, which is killed. We go to the second period where Mikheyev whiffs on a break. 14:26, it's a Detroit penalty to Bernard Docker for tripping. That's killed off. Hawks have the jump in the second. Kampfer saves a goal. 12:30, Chicago penalty to Burakovsky for tripping, and Pang was angry. Pang, you could tell Burakovsky's stick never touched the Detroit player, and to get that call, it's been happening non-stop, and I've never seen it as much as this. That's killed off, though. 5:37, though, Detroit gets a rebound goal, and it's Emmett Finney, the biggest revelation in Detroit. 7th of the season from Raymond and Sandine Pellikka to make it 3-0. 2:56, it's a Detroit penalty to Finney for interference, which is killed. Larkin has a break that's saved. Pang notices Kane is missing on the bench, and it's still 3-0 going into the third as Nickel decides to make an appearance on this. Hey. Okay, just walk right across me. Okay. Oh, he's here now. Hey, Nickel. How are you? Good talk. 13-12, it's a Detroit penalty to DeBrincat for tripping, which is killed. Kane was back for the third, I should also mention. Lardis hits the post. The Hawks just can't buy one. 5 minutes and 2 seconds to go. The Hawks decide to pull the goalie. And at 3:46, Detroit gets the empty netter. It's Alex DeBrincat's 18th of the season, second of the game, unassisted. 4-0. So what we learned today is the Hawks can't have an offense without Bedard. We learned that Lardis has a wicked shot. And the Hawks going to need Bedard back absolutely immediately. So, yeah. we'll see how the Hawks do this rest of the time without Bedard, because it's going to be rough. In other news, I'm not sure if I mentioned in any other videos, there were a couple trades over the weekend. Spencer Stastny heads to Edmonton for a third-round pick going to Nashville. And because of that, Tristan Jarry goes to Edmonton along with Sammy Poulin from Pittsburgh. And in return, they get Stuart Skinner, Brent Kulak, and a 2029 second-round pick. Why trade Skinner and Jarry, which when they're kind of equally as inconsistent? I don't know. How Pittsburgh gets the extra second-round pick? I don't know. But yeah, and then Reichel was put on waivers in Vancouver, and he cleared, so now he's in Abbotsford. And then the biggest news, Quinn Hughes is now a member of the Minnesota Wild. So in the Central Division, your top pairings on defense, you have Makar and Taves, Heiskanen and Harley, and now you have Hughes and Faber. So the top three in the Central are set. Rossi, Ogren, Bouillon, and a 2026 first going the other way. Bouillon, obviously, the big piece of that deal going back to Vancouver. Rossi, if he can get his game going, maybe. And then Ogren, he has had a horrible year in Minnesota to start the season. So if he can find his game in Vancouver, that could look like a very good trade. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.